Ta-da! Here we are. Hey guys, happy Halloween. It's October 31st, 2018. I'm with my friend, the beautiful and talented Elizabeth Scovil with Elizabeth Scovil Handbags. Did it right. You never know on a Halloween night. So let us know you can hear us or see us because she has a phenomenal story that I really think is important for us to share. Ben Gilbert's on, Mr. Benjamin Gilbert. I got a heart, so that means he is hearing us. So this is Elizabeth. She's probably been on stuff before, but this is her first Facebook Live show, at least with Ted Bogert. So God bless her. Welcome for coming on. Welcome on the show, and thanks for coming.
Well, thanks, Ted. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited. You have an awesome journey to share, a very, very important message. And so let's begin with, hi Juliana and Karen, let's begin with how it all started.
Well, about 7 years ago, I became a heart disease survivor, and my whole life changed at that point, and that's how I got started with the handbags.
And you're from New Hampshire, though. I'm going to take you back. We're going to do a memory trip.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about your New Hampshire and how you got to Florida, and then we're going to take your 7 years ago and really expound on that, and you've done amazing things since then.
Well, I've been down here since 1980, but I'm a New England girl. I'm from New Hampshire. So
it's cold up there.
Yes, it
Elizabeth,
is.
It's cold.
I don't miss some of that cold, but I do miss the snow every once in a while. But I moved down here when I was a junior in high school, and
where'd you go? Did you move to Orlando?
Leesburg,
Lake County,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and shortly, a few years after I graduated, I got married to a native, a Floridian from Umatilla.
That's also Lake County, right? Umatilla.
Right. And then we moved in 1988 to Central Florida, so we've been in Orlando since '88.
Wow.
So.
And then what did you do? So obviously people want to know your why. We're going to get to your why. But between moving here in 1988 and your why, what were you working on? What were you doing?
I was a stay-at-home mom.
Awesome.
I've been married 32 years this year.
God bless you. That's amazing.
I have 4 sons that are Sean, Nicholas, Stephen, and Shane, and they're all in their 20s. My oldest one is will be 32 in a few months.
Uh-oh. Mom, you sold him out, 32.
Yeah. And he's married and expecting his second son.
Awesome. So you're a grandma too.
Yeah, I'm a grandma.
What do they call you?
Grandma Lovey.
Grandma Lovey. See, I love all the nicknames. It's not traditional anymore.
Right?
Kind of goes with the heart. I love that.
That's right.
And then you want to give a shout out to your dad today, right?
Yes, today is my dad's 82nd birthday.
That's amazing.
Happy birthday, Dad.
That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about your journey. So you've got the 4 sons. You're here in Central Florida since '88, and then 7 years ago, your life completely changed.
Yeah, my youngest one was about to graduate from high school. Everyone else was already gone and in college, and I was applying for law school.
Why law school? Why did you want to just go back, and was it because you really did want to practice law, or it just was fascinating for you?
Well, my father was an attorney, and he's retired now, of course, but an attorney and a judge, and I always loved it. And my family was first, so as I got married, I raised my kids, and then it was time for me to be me. And so I was going to be empty nester, and either I was going to get a career back or I was going to bother them forever. So
they were like, Mom, please get the career.
Yeah, so they were excited I would go back. So that's what I just chose to do. And then we went on I hadn't finished my 4-year degree. I only needed like 2 classes left because I ended up becoming a mom and raising my kids at the time. I went to school later in life. And so I went back and finished my undergrad in 2 semesters, and when we celebrated as a family cruise, because I actually, in honesty, I graduated with my oldest son. We walked together at Stetson University.
That's so cool.
So it was
I love
cool.
that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So we went on a cruise to celebrate that accomplishment for us, and when we got back, I got very, very sick, and the kids got sick, but they got better. And I just started going downhill and found out it was whooping cough. But through that, as I was recovering, I realized that I was feeling like chest pains and my heart skipping some, and I knew something was wrong.
Did you initially chalk first whooping cough? I didn't even know people had that anymore.
Yeah. As a side note, we hit some third world countries, so we think we picked it up.
Sure.
But we found out, just as a side note for everybody, you need the whooping cough every 10 years. You need a booster for that.
Did not know that.
I didn't know that. A lot
Nope.
of people get the bronchitis, and sometimes it could be the
Sure.
whooping cough. So the kids, their booster was pretty new for them, so they got over it, but not me.
But then you were, so what were you feeling? So sometimes people, I want you to talk about the symptoms a little bit. Like, what were you feeling that you didn't just, you finally decided, I'm not just going to chalk this up to being normal sick?
Right. They found out that towards the end that I have electrical problems, and what I was feeling was my heart was skipping, and I was getting chest pains, because if your heart's not beating right, you know, it can hurt or take your breath away at times. And so there was a lot of unknowns, so I kept I went to cardiologists, and they could see a little bit of it, but they said sometimes that can be normal. And so they just kept sending me home and telling me, oh, it's stress, it's anxiety, and you know, being a female, it was just, you know, always being told it was stress, you're just stressed out. And so after 11 months of this, I finally was convinced that it was stress. And I worked out at the RDB Sportsplex where the Magic players at the time were practicing. And I went on the spin bike because I used to work out 4 or 5 days a week. And my blood pressure was 100/60.
Wow.
That's excellent.
That's amazing, blood pressure.
No cholesterol problems. And so I thought, okay, I'm fine. And so I went to work out, got on that spin bike, and within a few minutes of getting my heart up, elevated, I collapsed on the ground, and thankfully that there was firemen working beside me, and it saved my life.
So after 11 months, right? So this is the frustrating thing with the medical profession, just a challenge, not that they don't already know this. But first of all, it's a challenge sometimes to be your best advocate. You have to be your best advocate. You can't take everything they say you have to really do your own push on it.
Right.
That's for yourself especially, but for your family members as well. But as a woman, what you were experiencing, I think, we talked about this, is that the medical profession, you said only 8%?
Family doctors, only 8% recognize heart disease is a woman's #1 killer.
In a woman. So you're already going against the stereotype that it just must be stress, little lady. It wasn't anything that could really be a heart problem,
right,
because they're not in tune with that. They're not in touch with that. So you're fighting for that. You know something's wrong, and then you're like, all right, well, maybe they're right. I'm just going to go about my life. Thank God somebody was next to you, or you would have been a casualty in that whole fight against it. So you have the heart attack, correct?
No.
What did you have?
They kept testing, and a lot of what common is to look for plumbing issues, and that could be blockages which cause the heart attack. I never knew about cardiac arrest, but cardiac arrest is where there's electrical problems where your heart can race too much, and you go into cardiac arrest because it can't keep up with that. You know, as it's going faster, you start losing that oxygen to your brain too. So that was a new understanding of heart attack versus cardiac arrest.
I did not know that either.
Right. Unfortunately, with heart disease, every 80 seconds a woman's dying. It's an epidemic. And I finally went to the Mayo Clinic where they gave me, you know, a diagnosis, and they told me I was actually a miracle to be here. They found out I was born with a very rare electrical fatal heart condition. And she said that most do not live past the age of 20. You've probably seen on the news that these athletes that are in great shape, and that's where I was, and that their heart rate hits a certain rate and they drop down and die. And I have one of those conditions, and a very, very serious, probably the most fatal one of all.
How does it go? 11, first of all, your whole life, right? It goes undetected. You have 4 children. You obviously give birth to 4 children. You go to the doctor periodically. They always do this on your chest. And then 11 months of knowing something was wrong.
Right.
How does that go undetected? You obviously went to the Mayo Clinic. Did you go back to your doctor and go, hey, dude, or hey, lady, why did you not find this? What's wrong? I mean, it must have been incredibly frustrating.
It's very rare, and it is frustrating because I think it's not so much as a woman, but a man or a woman, as a patient, just not being heard. And my biggest advice is to be an advocate for yourself and fight. You know your body better than anybody else. So you want to fight for that and fight for answers and to know, because every 80 seconds, a woman is dying from this. And if you do not know, I mean, the warning signs are very different for a heart attack. And there's just a lot about our heart that we just still do not know. So electrical issues, I think a lot of the research started coming out in the 90s. And growing up now, it makes sense because I did pass out when I was young, and they just could tell my parents only it was, she has low blood sugar. And so
that used to be always the answer if you passed out or had anything.
Right. So there's so much. And women, if you're listening, please know that, men's heart attacks are very typical of the left side, chest pain in their arm, their left arm, movie style like you see on movies. But then for women, it can be in, center of your chest, it can be your jaw, your shoulders, your back, and be flu-like. You can just be dizzy too. But did you know, Ted, that 2 out of 3 women have no symptoms whatsoever and can die of a heart attack? And so it's very important that you get especially if it's in your family, go to a doctor, go see a cardiologist, and if you're over 20, make sure you had a stress test, and that can be your baseline. I mean, it's in the family for my dad had the plumbing issues, he's had a stent, he's had a heart attack. Where me, it was electrical, but being in the family, my sons are 3 in their 20s and 132, as I was saying earlier. They all have had at least 2 stress tests in their physicals at the Mayo Clinic, according to them.
Because it's hereditary, or there's a correlation.
Right.
Having a parent have it, that they could have the same thing. Did somebody in your history have it, or were you the first?
Well, my dad's side, my dad is the longest living person to live past. He's 82, but before him, my grandfather was 72. All of the men in the family, and my grandmother too, all died before 70. None of them lived past 70, but I could not tell you if this was genetic through me or one of them, or just heart attacks. And they did tell me that I do have the gene for my dad's plumbing issues and that I will get blockages, but that probably in another 10 years, but that wasn't my problem then. My problem was this electrical condition, and I can live a somewhat normal life with medicine and just being a patient and with the Mayo and just keeping an eye on it. So, and it really transformed my life. And through my research, I started seeing that there was this unequal treatment because I was sent home for 11 months, and I'm like, this is not fair. This is not right. And so my doctor challenged me to start understanding my condition. And when I did that, I saw, if you and I have a heart attack, you and I are the same age. If we have a heart attack the same day, did you know that I have a 43% higher risk to die the first year than you, because you seem to get more of the help than the female does?
Oh.
And heart studies, you think you're going for the best care, which Florida Hospital right here, the Mayo Clinic, have some of the top-notch doctors in the heart field.
Absolutely.
And we're blessed by that. But did you realize that 19% of heart studies, according to the American Heart Association, that only 19% of women are represented in those studies? So there's still so much out there that we do not know. And that's where I started seeing time and time again that we have to make a change. And this month, thank goodness for Susan Komen, there's a lot of awareness for breast cancer awareness. But in February is where we have to do something to bring out more awareness of heart disease, because 1 in 30 women die of all cancers combined, but 1 in 3 is heart disease. There's more women dying a year in our nation right now than all 4 years of the World War II, our infantry soldiers. There's more in a year that we're dying. And if women, and one thing that caught me was that 80% in my studies when I was researching this, it can be 80% preventable if women only knew these signs of this heart attack.
Right.
And knew our statistics. And so I thought, how can I get this out there? How can I give a woman 80% chance? Because no woman should have to ever go through what I went through.
Were you thinking that when you woke up, so you wake up in the hospital, and then at that particular moment, did you go, okay, first of all, this is BS that I just went through this, and at least finally you survived it, but at least finally I'm going to get some of the answers. But then at that moment, did you go, this has to change? Was it a process for you? Because you've gone on, you obviously are now an advocate, and you've got a foundation you're working on, you've got the handbags, which we'll talk about in a minute. But what was the initial thing that you did? How did you progress to going, I need to get out there and speak about it?
Well, honestly, when I was at the Mayo Clinic and they informed me of this, the first thing that came to my mind was, holy goodness, I'm going to be living with a fatal heart condition, or I'm excited now that it wasn't in my head, it was really a diagnosis, and I was excited about it. I didn't know what to think first. But when I came back for that 11 months, I'm a real driven personality and true A. And so I was making handbags, something to keep my mind busy during this time. And so I was making handbags as holiday gifts. And I just as the weeks, as I was researching and I was reading more and more and more about this, and it would just enrage. And I was so frustrated to know that women were going through this. And it's all the women, for men too. It's your wife, it's your mom, it's your sister, your daughter. You know, everybody that we love as women, and that we're dying. And I thought, wow, I can give them an 80% chance because I know this now. How can I give them these? How can I bless them with this? And so I thought, how can I get this in every woman's hands? And so here I am making these handbags, and the light bulb went off, and I said, that's it. So I started in my laundry room. I made a handbag a day. I had a chocolate lab next to me. I brought her out back. I threw this bag on her head, and I took a picture and threw it on Facebook, and it just took off because once you start getting in this field and talking to people about it, it was becoming so prevalent that there was a need for this. And so with the handbags, what I do is you get the information, and they're locally made here in Orlando by local seamstresses, and you get all the information. It's packed full of the heart statistics and the warning sign card. But then what happens, about a year and a half ago, we partner with Florida Hospital Cardiovascular, because they're an awesome team, and the Mayo Clinic. And a percent of our money goes back into them. And how we're different than the American Heart Association, Go Red, does an awesome job as far as getting the money and getting research done. But what we do different is that our money goes straight into survivor hands. So to date, we have paid for 180 women's heart medicine for a year.
So you get choked up because you're making the impact. 180 women, because I think we talked about this earlier. People don't really, they know you're going through it, they know you've suffered through it, they know you're in recovery, or wherever you're at, you're a survivor. But what they don't realize is that it impacts every part of your life, your livelihood, your job, your family, how you get out of bed every morning. And sometimes people don't have the money. Sometimes they have needs because they are going through treatment, they're in the hospital. So talk about that.
Yeah, I found a lot with women, because with the first couple of years I used to go up to Florida Hospital and go directly into the heart wing and talk to female survivors. And one thing that I found is prevalent is that with heart disease, I think you can lose certain organs or limbs, but when it comes to your heart, it's a scary feeling. So I found it really prevalent that women were going through depression.
Sure.
Because once your heart's affected, you think, and I went through it, that I wasn't so much depressed, but you have this feeling like, am I going to die, or I am going to die?
What's on the back? It's always on your mind, right?
Yes, exactly. So I wanted a way to touch women's lives. So I'd go and I'd visit, and I'd give them hope. And this has evolved too, that I've become an international speaker. I travel around. I'm available to come and talk to your club or your corporation, and encourage women and men too, that they can overcome anything, any obstacle in their life, because I face death every day, and how I've created 2 companies from this, and it's thriving and growing, and just to give people just that inspiration. And I'm a true believer that we're all born with a purpose and a passion.
Amen.
And have a compassionate to life, because when we are just chasing after the money, your life is not as fulfilling. But when you live your life knowing that every day could be your last, and that you could make a difference. And so every morning I wake up knowing if I could touch another woman's life, or another man's life, knowing that he could keep his wife or his sister or someone around, and that's what it's about. And
that's your why. This is your why,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You are making such an impact, and people don't underestimate the value of that, because when you're going through the throes of it, we talk about it on the cancer side too. When you're going through it, you still have to live that life, and people, it's very difficult to get out of bed, to continue your treatment, to know that you've got something fatal in your mind, but still yet try to be sunshiny with the rest of the world. It can be very challenging, and then you have money issues, you have things that you're dealing with on top of it, and to try to keep it all together, that's what Elizabeth's Foundation and what Elizabeth Scovil Handbags are helping with.
Absolutely.
So when you see, do you have a fundraiser? I know you're talking about putting one together, but how do people get to your handbags?
Well, I have a website, elizabethscovil.com. It's spelled Scovil. Elizabeth is the normal way, like Queen Elizabeth.
Like Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, elizabethscovil.com, and all our products are right there. And we're even expanded. I have a service dog, a chocolate Labrador, so she's even bringing a product into the line, and it's chocolates. And it's heart healthy chocolate, 72%, because as survivors, we don't want to give up chocolate. And so we have tumblers too, and they're great gifts for the guys to give to their wives or the women in their life too, because as their tumblers, on the back side is the warning signs of a female heart attack. Wow. So they always have that in their hand, or at their work, people can see it. And so we have handbags, we have fabric handbags, we're just bringing in some leather totes, so we're growing from that. And my phone number, my personal phone number is on that website, so that you can contact me directly and talk. And we also have a community board that we're trying to get up. And as far as in a blog, and we have a newsletter that goes out every week. And then we have our foundation. I just got my 501c3.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
So we're going to be launching that in January. So if you want to volunteer, we're going to be coming up with ideas on how we can do more fundraising.
She's got some great ideas, which I'll let her share at some point.
Yeah, so just coming in and helping, and just the huge help that you can do is just getting this out there and going to. I'm on all the social media. My biggest one is my Facebook page, Elizabeth Scovil Handbags, and just going and liking it or sharing it, buying for the holidays. Think of us first. And if you're local, you can stop by and see. I'm not a storefront, but I have a factory right here, and just outside the College Park.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we give tours, and sometimes I have events there, and ask me to come and speak, because that more I can share and just talk. I travel around and just tell people. It's the awareness, just knowing.
It's totally the awareness. All right, I have a question for you. How is Elizabeth Scovil different now than before you almost died? How are you different?
How am I different from the beginning to
now? So before you woke up, before you had that really bad, tragic thing on the treadmill. I avoid treadmills at all costs, by the way. How are you different? Do you feel like your perspective is different? Do you feel like how you interact with people is different? How did it change you?
All the above. It changed me 100%. I've always had my faith, and I'm very fortunate that going through this, I had a very supportive husband, and my 4 sons were right there. But as far as how it changed me, a lot of people even say to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry you went through this." And I said, "I'm not," because it changed me so much for the better. I appreciate every moment, every event. I'm just a lot more patient in life because I appreciate that. But the biggest thing is that my transformation was, a lot with the Lord too, because I went to church, appreciated the prayers and sermons, but it was like, it wasn't until I remember very vividly one of the times I was at the Mayo Clinic, and I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I knew I could no longer control. And I think as all human beings, we want to control our environment, we want to control our life, control our jobs. But it was at that moment, and I'll never forget this, that I just kind of reached up to the Lord, and I just surrendered everything to Him. And I said, I can no longer control this, and my life is going to be to serve you.
I love that. That's a change. That's a big moment. That's an epiphany.
Yeah.
I think it is. You were talking about how you're a type A. And so when you do that release, it's really, because human beings, we want to hold on to everything. But when you do it, it is so emancipating and freeing. I have been there. I get it. I've, thank God, not had health issues. But when you release, when you go, all right, I surrender it all, I can't do it. Yeah, it's life-changing. Yeah. Absolutely life-changing.
And we get so frustrated with people and how they react. And it's just like, just step back. Yep. Just enjoy life. Quit worrying.
Right.
We waste more time worrying than we do.
We really do. All right, so we're going to share all of Elizabeth's contact information, her Facebook page for Elizabeth Scovil Handbags, how you can reach out to her, how you can get involved, how you can get more information, how you can utilize her, book her as a speaker, because this topic, Susie said it, hi Susie, hi Tony, said it earlier, it's so important. There's not enough talk about it. We're not talking about it enough. Right. So we've got a local, wonderful a firsthand experienced resource here in Central Florida, and we should definitely utilize her, reach out to her. She's got a passion, and she's got that feeling. She's been there, so she knows how to speak it. That doesn't show, by the way. She knows how to speak it, and she knows how to get it to you. So any parting words of wisdom for them, anything you want to share with them before we head out?
Please go to your doctor. Encourage every woman in your life that you know, along with yourself, because women, we are caretakers, and we love to take care of everybody else, but we don't take care of ourselves enough. And we cannot help them. We can't, take care of anybody else until we take care of ourselves first. Go to the doctors, ask for some heart checks, and if he tells you no, then find another doctor and say, or look, take me serious. This is an epidemic in our nation, and just give me a couple, an EKG, a stress test. Just do these things and talk to them, and find a cardiologist that works with women in heart disease, that understands that, and do not dismiss this because it is serious. So be proactive. Do not, take your time. We are notorious too. Did you know that we're a minute and a half longer to call 911 than men?
Really?
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. And if you were to tell me, you got symptoms, let's call 911, let's call the ambulance, then I would probably go, oh no, I'm fine. Women will go, I'm fine. And so men, if they tell you they're fine and you know these symptoms and you're aware of this now, then tell her no, we're going now.
Correct. All right, you've been a joy to have on. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing your story and your journey. It's so important. We'll share the story. We'll share all of Elizabeth's contact information. Thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Deb.
we love you guys. Have a safe and happy Halloween. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.